Ericsson's mission-critical BSS portfolio is now available on Amazon Cloud. But what role is AWS playing in service providers' cloud journeys, and how important is BSS to 5G monetization? I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content at TelecomTV, and I'm going to be asking what this partnership with AWS really means for Ericsson's customers, the importance of cloud, and the different approaches CSPs can take on their cloud BSS evolution. Well, joining me now to explain more are Mats Karlsson, VP and General Manager, BSS Solution Area for Ericsson, and Amir, General Manager, Global Telco Portfolio and Partners, Telecom IBU at AWS. Hello and good to see you both. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme. Mats, tell me more about the latest development in the Ericsson and AWS partnership.
I will gladly do so. We took a decision to make sure that our full BSS portfolio is certified on the AWS public cloud. And I think the reason for it, I think we saw an increasing interest actually from a lot of operators. I think they have already running most of the BSS portfolio in private cloud, but we also now saw very clearly that they are probably moving over a lot of their internal IT, and I think it's quite natural also to ask for actually running their BSS portfolio on top of the public cloud. So for us, it was a decision that we took to making sure that our full BSS portfolio can run on the AWS public cloud.
Thanks, Mats. And Amir, what can you add about the partnership from AWS's perspective?
Yeah, truly, Ericsson is an industry leader for telco industry, and there's no different for BSS, which is an important paradigm or phase of applications to be able to transform and help achieve the digital transformation of an operator. So Ericsson's leadership, Ericsson's scale in BSS, and coupled with AWS's scale and technology innovation, it can definitely be a force multiplier effect for our end customers to achieve their digital transformation objectives.
And Amir, you're both market-leading companies. So how does AWS for Telecom add value to CSPs with Ericsson? And what would you say are the key ingredients to make this partnership successful?
I think the key ingredient for any partnership to be successful is customer centricity. And that's something we've heard very frequently from Ericsson, from Mats himself, as well as other leaders at Ericsson, which gives us the confidence that as long as we would be able to center our innovation, center our focus on our end customers, we would actually really be able to help them. Now, what really our end customers need? They are looking for two things fundamentally. One is that they are looking for a transition from being a communication service provider to becoming a digital service provider. Now, if that has to happen, they need to be able to offer and build new digital services, which of course they can do using AWS Cloud. But then they have to be able to expose and catalog those new services. And they have to be able to attract customers and offer customer omni-channel experience for those services. They have to be able to build and provision those services. And that is where Ericsson's BSS portfolio is extremely, extremely crucial in an operator's journey to become a digital service provider by leveraging a cloud-native BSS portfolio from Ericsson running on AWS and thereby achieving their business objectives quickly. The other thing that I would want to say, the second piece is around 5G monetization. 5G is going to open up a tremendous amount of opportunities, both in scope and in the context of diversity of those new services that we will see proliferate in next 3 to 5 years. And for that to be able to successfully offered in a digital experience to an end customer, once again, the BSS would be at the center stage. The BSS application, because just not one application, there are multiple applications which work in unison, and I'm sure Matt could probably elaborate, being a subject matter expert in this. But we think these two opportunities, one, the transformation to be a digital service provider, and B, the 5G monetization, makes this partnership extremely important, not only for us, but also for our end customers.
And Mats, we're seeing an acceleration in this move from CSP to digital services provider, DSPs. Would you say that the customer-centric approach that you bring is one of the key factors in making this partnership successful?
Absolutely, and to elaborate what Amir said is that I think we're having today a full BSS portfolio. I mean, sharding, billing, mediation, order catalog, omnichannel orchestration, etc. And for us, I think one of the fundamental things that we see now with 5G is, and I would say, an enormous increase of the need of agility and flexibility to create new services in a very quick way. Obviously, a lot of that flexibility and agility needs to come from the BSS portfolio in itself, but I think there is also a need to actually being able to stand up new applications, scale them up in a very quickly way. So I think when you're looking at this one, I think there is obviously, when you go on public cloud, there is probably I would say an OpEx to CapEx rebalancing that is happening. But I think the major reasons for doing this is really about the flexibility and agility and the speed that will be needed for 5G, because I think a very big difference from 5G compared to the previous standard is that 5G is a use case driven approach, and that means that you don't really know all the services that you need to create, and you don't know how well they will take off on the market, but you know that you need to be very quick in defining them. You need to be very quickly in trying to, as I said, monetize them and understand if they fly. And if they fly, you need to be able to scale up in a very quick way. So I think for us, I think public cloud and 5G is a very good combination.
And Mats, where are we today? What stage are CSPs at in their BSS cloud journeys?
I would say it's an interesting question. I think if I would just go back 2 years ago, I think a lot of service providers said that public cloud is not for telco operators. I think there is, I would say, an accelerated interest in deploying on public cloud. That is clear. I think the other thing that we can see is as well that actually the need to refresh and the need to be on the latest and greatest software. I think there is, I mean, you actually need to make sure that you can monetize these services. And that means that there is also an increased need for upgrading frequency. There is a need for being on the latest and freshest software. So for me, I think a lot of operators have done the journey going to private cloud. They have done that last couple of years. I think we clearly see now that a lot of them are taking the journey over to public cloud. And I think for me, it's probably so that they're more looking into to actually be able to act quicker on the market.
Thanks. And Amir, as Matt said, we're seeing a number of service providers looking at the public cloud now. So where would you say service providers are in this overall cloud journey with BSS?
So based on the experience for any digital transformation journeys across a very different, varied number of verticals, industry verticals that we operate in, we've seen generally there are 3 phases. There's this try phase, and I think Matt's alluded to it, that historically the operators, the telco operators, were somewhat, whether cloud is the right solution in that mindset. But I definitely think that phase, the try it phase, has passed with as far as BSS applications concerned. The next phase generally is a scale phase, where the end customers are willing to modernize their applications, to re-architect based on cloud native principles, to truly leverage the benefit of automation, of CI/CD, of AI/ML capabilities that cloud has to offer. So personally, I think that we are entering that scale phase. And the next phase is probably going to be when we refactor, completely rebuild to optimize the applications based on cloud native, not cloud native technologies, but cloud native principles. So definitely we are at the second stage, at the scale stage from BSS adoption. on public cloud.
So Amir, we're in the scale phase then. So what are the key opportunities going forward, and how can CSPs capitalize on these?
The biggest opportunity is 5G monetization. We've spoken about it briefly before. I just mentioned it right at the beginning. The ability to offer it, 5G is going to just completely change the scope and scale of potential offerings. You would see different kind of use cases. We'll see, in fact, all of us being in the center of the industry, we will see some very, very unique and new use cases, things that we haven't seen before. So there is going to be an element of unpredictability, not only in the context of the use cases, but also the amount of uptake a particular use case can get. For example, the Netflix or Uber of 5G, the scope is going to be multiple times bigger compared to what we saw in the context of 4G. And if we are to then ensure that the customer experience doesn't get compromised, and I talk about customer experience, I'm talking about the end customer experience, the consumer of the 5G connectivity and the low latency cloud services together, or an application that benefits from 5G speed and low latency cloud services. We have to offer a customer experience where we can actually achieve an intent-based orchestration. The customer can be able to pick and choose the service features, and that's going to be a totally different dimension of catalog management, which is the fundamental piece of BSS. Or for that matter, the billing and rating engines, which would have to adapt to a feature change. Imagine in the middle of a call or in the middle of a consumption of a service. So these are going to be massive opportunities, and the flexibility that we could be able to offer together to the operators to then be able to translate that flexibility of technology and of the choices that they can offer to their customer is going to determine their success to a large degree in the context of 5G monetization. Hence, the CI/CD pipeline, the AI power of AI ML, the power of DevOps from a cloud perspective to ensure the feature velocity is there. These are the things that will determine intrinsically, together with a best-in-class BSS portfolio from somebody like Ericsson, that operators can monetize 5G effectively.
So Matt, we've heard the potential opportunities are huge. So how does a CSP capitalize on this? What would you add are the key opportunities going forward for them?
No, obviously, as we said, the main drivers of 5G is around making sure that you can monetize all the opportunities that arises due to 5G. And for me, what I think is a big difference. I think if you're looking on the old standards, 3G, 4G, 5G, I mean, more or less, there was like three basic services. That was like SMS, voice, and data. That were the three services, and the enterprise variant of that one was more or less the same services, but packaged for different company hierarchies. If you're looking on the 5G services, I mean, these are services that could be created specifically for one enterprise. It could be a network slice for some specific industrial use case. And actually, that puts a completely different requirements on the 5G systems in terms of both having the capabilities to define these services in a very quickly way, to deploy the services, to put the monetization schemes, to making sure that how do you handle partners, how do you kind of do settlements across multiple stakeholders in this service. And if the service takes off, how do you scale it up? How do you scale it down if it doesn't work? So for me, the whole concept of agility, flexibility, speed, and of course, to making sure that, I mean, we talked about that the old system used to have three basic services. In 5G, I mean, we don't know. There will be probably thousands of services, and we don't know which these services are today. So I think that really puts a lot of stress on a system that you need to kind of design a bit for the unknown in terms of what type of services you're going to monetize.
Good point, Matt. So, as always, we're never quite sure what the main services and popular services are going to be in the next few years. But given this uncertainty, do you have any specific advice for CSPs who are just starting out on their cloud BSS journey?
I mean, obviously, I think one of the things that we are looking into is making sure that there is a choice, because operators will go in different speeds. Some of them would like to deploy on the private cloud, some on the public cloud. They may pick other public cloud providers as well. So one is obviously, I mean, we need to provide a choice. But I think the other part which I think is important is that this journey must start now. So to say, the sooner the better it is to actually start this journey. Because as Amir was alluding to, cloud is not just a technology. It actually changes the competence need. And of course, to be able to utilize cloud, there is a completely, I mean, you need new tools like DevOps, you need a CI/CD pipeline, etc. Because otherwise, cloud doesn't really maybe provide the benefits that you need to. And these are not just changes on Ericsson's side. These are changes that also needs to happen on the operator side. And as I said, at least the experience and what we have seen is that these changes takes time. So I think it's very important to be very early and start it up. And the sooner you can start this activity, the better it will be.
And Amir, given the extent of the changes that we're looking at, not just technology, but cultural changes, what's your advice for CSPs who are just looking at outlining their cloud BSS journey?
So one thing I definitely concur with Matt is starting quickly, starting sooner than later. And what's required, what we have experienced in multiple sort of enterprise large transformations that we have seen at AWS in other verticals besides telecom, what's really important is the top-down mandate, will at the leadership level. Then coupled with, to Matt's point, the ability and willingness to build competency on cloud. Because cloud is a new way to design, cloud is a new way to think, to construct the application and to plan for the future needs. The third aspect would be, don't try to boil the ocean. Life is already pretty complex, and most IT landscapes, and especially network IT landscapes, such as BSS, will have multiple stacks, multiple applications. Some can be refactored, some needs to be, totally changed. So let's just pick some easy wins at the beginning when we start, and that allow us to start faster. So these would be the top three. And then a parting advice would be, try and get to cloud native software as soon as possible, just to leverage the real power of cloud and the agility and the elasticity and the feature velocity that you expect cloud to deliver for your business and for your end customers.
Good advice, Amir. And if you could add for us a summary of what would you say would be, the main advantages of this partnership? What does this partnership bring to CSPs? How does it help them with their journey towards cloud BSS?
So in my view, the primary benefit of this partnership is to benefit from the scale of two very, very large companies. Ericsson is truly an industry leader in the telco industry. And AWS, we are in the 15th year of our journey as a cloud provider. I don't need to talk about our scale and the size, but we've learned a lot of things. And as we very famously put it in AWS, there is no compression algorithm to experience. So one of the things that we can really bring together to our customers, to the operators, is the experience that we have gained in building both the cloud and in Ericsson in building the cloud native applications to offer the end customers the agility, the settlement, the catalog management, the to understand the regulatory frameworks that govern a telco's business, and put all of this together to offer them a BSS which can scale, which can serve the needs not only today but also in the future, when we will have a very, very large number of services and a very, very large number of potential offerings for end customers to consume, and really set us up as an industry to embrace the power of 5G and embrace the power of choice for the end consumers that we all want to bring together.
Thank you, Amir. And Matt, a final comment from yourself. How does this partnership help CSPs?
I can actually start reflecting. I think one of the fundamental views that we took was that we decided to actually, because we've been through the journeys, as I said, from I would say native applications to virtual, and now we have launched our cloud native portfolio. And I think when we launched the cloud native, it was very, very clear that the public cloud got as a natural choice for the operators. I mean, of course, a lot of them will of course stay on private cloud. But for us, one is obviously providing them the choice. They don't need to feel that they can take any avenue they want. So I think choice. The other one is obviously around the 5G. I mean, our estimation is that the new type of enterprise services driven out of 5G, I mean, we are anticipating them being at around $700 billion at the end of 2030. So obviously, the more and the faster you can be to actually have a system that can actually handle this type of new services, that can monetize these new type of services, the bigger share of that cake, obviously, you can take. So one is, as I said, to making sure that you have systems that can actually capture the future growth. Because this is not about, so to say, I mean, the systems of the history, I think they're probably hard to use because it could take, it could take probably months sometimes to actually deploy and define a new services. And obviously, for the future, you need to do this in much shorter time today. And for me, I think this actually, making sure that you have actually the systems and the tools in place, as I said, for the services that you maybe not know in details what all the services is, and have the system prepared and have it ready, and that you don't feel there is, if you're on public cloud, of course, there is a lot of, there is no limitations in terms of scalability and how you can move and how you can spin up new systems, etc. So I think it's of course, it's adding another flavor of this type of agility and flexibility that is, so that comes on top of the actual agility and flexibility in the BSS system. So choice, monetization on 5G, and of course combining the assets of a 5G BSS system with all the leadership and the technology that comes from Amazon Web Services.
Well, Mats and Amir, thank you both very much indeed for joining us today and sharing your views. Thank you.
Thank you.